Obviously, hi everyone. Welcome to IT Online Learning's exclusive webinar with James and Gary from CompTIA and the ONR respectively. So today, as you guys know, we're just going to be running through a couple of questions about careers, technology, trends, just to gain some insight from these absolute industry behemoths. So let's get started. So firstly, welcome James and welcome Gary. It's so lovely to have you guys and thank you for joining us this afternoon. So to start off with, could you guys tell us a little bit about each of your career pathways? So what led you here? What made you pursue your careers in technology and in cybersecurity?
Well, I'll jump off in with that. Let's see, what started my career into cybersecurity? That's a good question. The main thing, I had about 2 3/4 kids, or my wife had those, and I realized that the career that I was on just wasn't going to work out supporting folks. You know what I mean? And so I just kind of took a look at the opportunities that were out there. This is many years ago, a couple of decades ago. And basically, I had gotten myself a career. I always tell people a degree in unemployment. In fact, I got 3 of them. English, English bachelor's, English master's, English literature, British Romantic literature. We'll deconstruct poetry for food. And so I had already done a lot of work with IT and things like that over the years, but I had wanted to get into that world of doing the professor thing. And 2 things happened. I was on a dissertation fellowship, which is great because they give you money without having to do anything, apparently. But I was doing a lot of work supporting professors. Every time a professor had some sort of problem, their computer ate their paper or whatever, I was able to help them. And so I just started looking around to see what kind of other opportunities there were. And I got a job working for folks that were pen testers. And they said, look, James, you've got the security stuff down. You know what's going on. We hate to write. And so we want you to come with us to, Hong Kong and London and Washington, D.C., et cetera, to do pen testing with us and then write those things up. So I made that transition, made that shift. So I used a lot of my previous personal experience and a lot of my kind of leveraged previous things to get out of that terrible English thing that I was in and got into something that really made a lot of sense for me. So that's one way to look at how I made that move.
That's fantastic. Wow.
It was an interesting experience. It's like you tell people, some people had, degrees in computer science or whatever. Forgive me if I roll my eyes there, et cetera. And I'm not particularly proud of that English PhD. I'm not, but I am proud of making the transition into some place that made some sense.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And you, Gary?
I'll go dead quick. I'll sum it up in 1 minute. I'll try to. Probably I'll admit to a few historic crimes here. So hopefully no law enforcement is on. Pretty much did what most kids do back in school. Pirated games quite a lot. ZX81 mainly by using a C90 tape inside in at school, which got me expelled. Hey ho, that kicked me off there. Went into engineering, did some industrial control systems there. Seemed like a good job, paid well. Did an apprenticeship, good route rather than uni. Didn't want to go to traditional, it wasn't for me in university. Seemed academic and a bit boring, to be fair. However, worked up in a trophy shop due to a few personal things. It just seemed that easy to family care with that. Then bizarrely came on a CompTIA A+, which was a freebie by the government back in 1997. Obviously, over that time, I'm building several computers, using the same copy of Windows 95 and 98 on about 3,000 boxes, I should imagine. So sorry, Microsoft, but thank you there for that. Took my A+, passed it. Then the instructor said, we should be good at this, you know your stuff. So paid for the network plus myself. We mortgaged my house for the Microsoft MCSE entity board at the time. That worked off, got me a good foothold in the career and infrastructure job. We mortgaged the house again, paid for Windows 2000. Unfortunately made the Northern Rock go bust by doing that on my mortgage, but hey ho. Then worked around. I worked for WPP, big advertising company, for a bit. They were great. Left that, thought teaching would be a blast. Liked the idea of 13 weeks holiday, didn't quite work out for me. Started on the apprenticeship route, teaching CompTIA, A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, which obviously done stuff before within the world of work and other jobs previously. Did some work for the US military for a couple of years, which was quite interesting. I'll look good in the uniform. For the US Navy rather than the US Army. I don't look good in green. Then with Firebrand training, which a boot camp environment, quite tasty, good fun. Always nice working 60 nowadays with people, trying to get them over the hilt. And then took a job in government. They came into one of my courses and said, why don't you work for us? Seemed like a good idea. 9/11 was a bit of a shift change back in, obviously, on cyber, I feel, for everybody. Working cyber now, look at nuclear reactors. That's fun. About to move on to Ofgem, which is the energy and gas regulator in the UK. That's basically me.
Wow.
Took a load of exams. Yeah, I'm old. I wouldn't say I'm good. I just say I'm persistent and don't give up.
That's fantastic. I mean, I think we can use wise instead of saying old. I think you both have acquired your fair share of wisdom over the years, and I can respect that. So that being said, now it's quite interesting for me that neither of you, I don't want to say intended to, but it wasn't part of the plan when you were trying to identify what kind of career path you were wanting to take. Now, if you could speak to someone that is looking to start a career in something that's completely different, a completely different industry to the one that they have experience in, if you could go back in time and speak to someone in that position, what advice would you give to them? What advice would you have given to yourselves at that point in your lives or in your careers?
Well, a couple of different things come to mind. First of all, get a mentor, right? Get some sort of mentor. Focus on things that are important. Get hands-on experience in every concept you learn. Another thing. Also, focus on ways that you cannot waste your time. Get a hold not only of that mentor, but of a good body of knowledge that is important. And the last thing, if I already haven't said it, make sure you get the right foundation. I think one of the things that helped me along the way, and I think, Gary, you kind of mentioned it with A+, whatever foundation you can get. If you get the right foundation, then you can move forward with confidence. Because I find people, as they're learning, as they're picking up new things and making this transition into really a whole new world, there's a real gap in people's confidence. Can I do this? You're picking up whole new languages, as it were, right? Can you really do this to have the confidence in doing it? And I think if you work on some of the things that I mentioned, having to do with getting a mentor, focusing on the right body of knowledge, and getting a foundation and hands-on experience, you can overcome that kind of confidence gap. That really can help you move forward and learn a lot of the cool things that are out there to learn about IT and security.
Wonderful.
It's good end to the therapy session for me, to be fair. I think my thing is that possibly I should have learned sooner. And fear of failure is one of the things that stops a lot of people. And then the best thing I did was, even though I was absolutely petrified of remortgaging my house to go for a course for which I had no knowledge on, I was probably underskilled for. And I remember having a load of, I'm going to use the term nerds, on the course there, who basically shunned me because I wasn't in at the time. And IT back in the 90s was probably a little bit more nerdy than it is now. Again, echoing James, is that, have no fear, go for it, follow the path. And if cyber's the career for you and you want to go for it, go for it. Don't let anybody stop you. Don't everyone say no. Just follow that path and if you stay true to that path and follow some key certifications, key experiences, key learning, and hook yourself up with the right people, you've got a career, job for life, job security, and you've got to stay positive. But it is, as James says, it's about the basics. And I've worked with so many people, and I have worked with people who don't understand the basics, think they know cyber, do the top end certifications, and basically repeat what the lower end people who actually know what they're doing talk about. So it is, if you want to be successful, know the basics.
Okay. So that's really interesting for me how you guys have both brought up knowing your foundations, knowing your basics before you go into something that is, I want to say, as complex as cyber. One of the questions that we actually were asked was, is previous IT experience beneficial for me moving into cybersecurity? So in other words, should I start an IT position and then work my way up from there until I get to cybersecurity, or kind of what's the most direct and the most beneficial path to securing a position in cybersecurity? So you guys would then say getting that foundational knowledge, that foundational basis to really build on, and then working your way up from there.
One of the things. Oh, go ahead, Gary.
No, you go ahead, James. I know you go first.
No, it's interesting about, it depends on what you mean by experience. You know what I mean? I think a lot of folks think that experience means that you have to have some sort of official wage and some sort of official job and a title and all that sort of thing. Most of the experience that I got was effectively volunteer experience. I started, and I discounted that. I don't know about you, Gary, but when I first started helping folks, I kind of discounted that. Well, that's not IT support. It's like, well, actually, it was, and you realize that a lot of folks, doesn't have to be this way, but a lot of folks kind of become the de facto. Okay, I'll call up James if I have a problem and all that. Now, to the question about starting with security, the way it worked with me is I jumped into security pretty quickly, but I did start kind of with that tech support side of things and then moved on to it. So that was kind of the trajectory that I went. But I took a bit of a couple of left turns. I became president of a company, for example, which you'd say, well, what does that have to do with security? In some ways, not a lot. In some ways, a lot, because I learned about the business of IT and how IT supports what businesses do. And so you kind of put that hat on as opposed to just a purely technical hat. So there are different ways in which you can leverage experience. And then when I really got much more deeply into security, I was able to look at things with more nuanced views. And I think one of the first things that people forget is they can leverage experience that they've had. And that experience, I don't care if you've been in a service industry, Uber driver or whatever. Think about it this way. If you're an Uber driver, what do? Well, you effectively get some sort of ticket, right? That's on your phone or whatever, right? You get a notice of something and then you service the need, right? That happens in tech support. That happens in security a lot, all of the time. So there are ways in which you can leverage your experience to get over that kind of confidence gap and to think in terms of technical skill, but also in terms of solving problems, things like that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, it's kind of, you're on that. It's like, I think the key to cybersecurity is that it's a business discipline, and that needs to be broken. The term cyber indicates #nerd, and I've just been frank. That's it. Cybersecurity is not that. It's a business discipline to ensure that you identify the risks, and if you are compromised in a cyber attack, you can recover to keep the business afloat. That is basically it. And if you've got to know the technical nuances along the way to do that, so be it. You have to. That is it. And the key to it, the key to success in the industry is understanding the business you work for, and not being siloed into a technological pit of looking at technology, because technology won't fix it. If you're going to ask, is IT experience beneficial? It is for sure. But it's something that can be taught and learned and adapted. And I wouldn't say it would send you in any less. What you can do for staff, knowing from the risk side, the business side, and then learn the tech. What you can do, if you know the tech already, fantastic, brilliant. If you know the tech, go on to learn the business side. It's a mixed bag of skill. Unless you can articulate what the risk is to the business, you're really not going to be good in the role, to be fair. So, that's just being really frank there. The direct path is any path you can find that suits your skill set. And what you have to remember is that it's up to you. I'm going to use this term now, to pimp you. And if you don't use the social media, LinkedIn effectively, get your CV out there, and just apply for everything. They can only say no. That's it. So that would be probably my 2 pence about dynamic path. You've got to sell you.
And to add on to that, I think the idea is that you can take that skill that you have and that interest that you have, and just find ways to map that to a business. So it's a two-way street. When folks are hiring you, they're looking to see if James or Gary or whomever are good risks, right? And so you basically push yourself, but you also take a look at, here's what I can do for the business. To me, it's less about the what, the technical, in a sense. It's more about the so what and the context and your ability to provide an accurate narrative and really, kind of walk in and be, if not persuasive, but also meaningful and impactful about what you say and how you work it.
Okay, wonderful. So what I'm getting from that then is people mustn't walk into this industry thinking that it's going to be a linear process that's going to just take you exactly to where you want to go when you want to get there. It is not linear. It is very much dependent on how you can translate your existing skills and experience into promoting or encouraging whether you are going to be a good risk for a company. Okay. Well, that's perfect. Wonderful. That's quite interesting for me, actually. And I know we spoke about kind of identifying whether someone is going to be a good risk to take on board, given our conversation now. But if you, Gary, and you, James, were taking a look at hiring someone or bringing someone on board, what would the skill or the characteristic or the trait be that you are looking for? What is the most important skill that you would be looking for?
So I'll answer that one, communication. Yeah.
Okay.
What was the, I'm sorry, what did you say? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, communication.
Yeah.
You need communication skill. If you can't communicate to your team, your line manager, you're going to be ineffective. And the main thing where you need to be in this industry is be effective. So you've got to be a good communicator. Now, there's different levels of communication that we can do. But obviously, to do that one, it's about listening what the problem is, understanding what the problem is, and articulating what the risk is. And this industry, cybersecurity, is about risk, and it's just that key of being able to quickly analyze what could be a technical risk or what could be a security personnel risk, and articulate, be able to do a quick snapshot and who to communicate to the best result to reduce that risk there. That's the key bit there. The rest of it you can learn. If you're not a good communicator, that is the one skill you need to get, because otherwise at an interview, you won't be able to get your point across.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that really add up to the ability to communicate, we could go into communication meaning the ability to, look some just culturally appropriate communication, things like that, or showing up on time and all that. But you could go the other direction and talk about, well, what are the root ways in which people can communicate well? And I often will say that a sense of curiosity, right, is really important. Curious not only in learning new tech, as things change, for example, but a curiosity about how business works, curiosity about how people work, about how communication, what does effective communication mean in a particular context? And I think kind of an empathy, a sensitivity, and a curiosity sometimes can really help somebody's ability to communicate in a really powerful way.
Okay, wonderful. So it's more than just your technical skills. It's more than just those hard skills. What we're coming down to is those soft skills and being able to portray yourself and to showcase yourself and your skills in a way that's going to translate really well to your employer or prospective employer, rather.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. One time I was interviewing for an organization, really large database company, put it that way, right? They do a lot of work in the cloud out of the Bay Area, for example. Talking with them. And in the conversation, one of the things the person said was, James, we could probably teach the technical skill in a matter of, weeks and months, less with you, right? It was just, you said the things that we're really looking for are things like communication, are the ability to think around the corner of a problem. Not just to say a problem might be coming around the corner, but like, given what I know now, here are some things that could be showing up, and let's think, more proactively. And it's, the ability to contextualize things. For example, one of the jobs that they selected me to do was to receive reports having to do with financial systems, pretty complex systems, some in the cloud, some in data centers. And what are some of the, and reports will be automatically generated. Reports, like OpenVAS or Nessus type reports. Well, it wasn't enough just to say, well, here's the report. I mean, you don't need AI to do that. A web script can do that. He said, what we need is somebody to read these reports and then turn around and talk about that in a business sense to somebody who may not be particularly technical. So you have to do that kind of liaison, kind of translation kind of work and contextualizing work. So things like that. They said, we were looking for those types of skills. And that implies good reading, right? Good writing, the ability to make a presentation in appropriate format. Sometimes a text will do. Sometimes it has to be a PowerPoint slide deck. Sometimes it has to be a Zoom presentation before a board or whatever. And it's up to the person to make the person who got hired to make that decision and put the right communication together. So that was an insight that early on, learned about.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. And I know we've kind of touched a little bit on interviews and hiring and that kind of thing. So when it comes down to interviews, naturally, we're looking at someone who can communicate very well. Now, what is your number one interview tip? Or in other words, if someone were to forget absolutely everything that they know about interviews, about the topic that they have specialized in or anything like that, and they could only remember one thing, what would the most important thing be for them to remember?
Oh, boy.
Okay, I'm going to go back to that one. I'm going to wind that one back. If the turn up in interview unprepared, don't turn up. That would be my advice there. Because you know what? I would not be happy if you were across the table and you were unprepared. That interview's over in the first 10 seconds for me. So we'd have to go through the questions. I think that the instance would be no. There. It goes back to, going to mention some cyber terms here, the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain. Get that one in. First bit is reconnaissance. So the first thing you do about the organization, do your OSINTs. Find out who they are, what they do, who's likely to interview you. By that, doing the OSINT, you probably find out what operating system to use, what technology they've got. You got something to talk about in your back pocket. The next thing would be look at NIST 61, NIST SP 161R2. I'll look at the incident response framework, and the key there is preparation. And unless you go to an interview prepared, you're not gonna get the lessons learned from it to find out how to improve. You've got to go in with the key bits of recon, preparation. If those aren't there, you are not getting that job. Period. Because the interviewer will just think, just wasting my time. Close the door. So that's the key thing. The other bit there inside the interview, a couple of things I'll probably talk about. It's probably talk about the risk and the organization and the help that you can do to the organization, what you can do for it. You're talking tech, they don't care. They'll ask you a technical question, but they want you to understand the business. It's about translating that business unit and they want to see a bit of personality. If you don't go in, the dead basic interview stuff. Look presentable, have copies of your CV, make sure your CV is spelled right, make sure it's down to 2 pages, be smiling, be happy, shakes his hands, and communicate there. If you can't get that across in the interview, it's over. And honestly, I've ended interviews very quickly. And on open days, if you go to an open day, the last open day I went to, I discounted all 12 attendees within the first 30 seconds because they just didn't have it. You've got to look, even though it's a good market for cybersecurity and pays well, there's a lot of people out there, and it's very difficult to recruit. And the best, the ones who are prepared, the ones who do the OSINT are the ones that win. The ones that, put together really bad application pipe with no time, no effort, don't get it.
Yeah.
So, that needs to be echoed quite strongly.
Yeah. Okay.
Do your research for the organization And then be prepared to ask some questions that way. And instead of broad questions, well, what is it that you do, or things like that, you can ask questions about what the specific need is for this position, and you could ask questions, and say, what are some of the elements that make somebody successful in this organization? Then be prepared to suggest your own as the interviewee about what is important for the organization. And so do I have that right? And then you begin that dialogue. The more that you can begin a dialogue and demonstrate that you are kind of worthy or worth of engaging in that dialogue to the hiring manager, whoever she is, whoever they are. That would be a really important thing in the interview. One time during an interview, I don't know, I tend to default to just some sort of sense of humor or something like that. I remember one time I was asked a series of questions. This question started with a few technical questions that I answered quickly. So they got that out of the way. And I could tell that they had about 2 or 3 questions per area. So they got the technical thing out of the way. And then they asked, well, what are the motivations for you, James? What are the primary motivations? And I immediately answered, well, fear and guilt, just like anybody else. And they liked that. I got that job. And so they liked it because they said, well, look, we need somebody who can go in and kind of, disarm a situation and knows, how to kind of cut to the chase, but also do it in such a way that is inclusive and on some level makes people feel comfortable, right? So they feel confident in what a person can do, and then kind of move forward and start talking about some of the tough areas. And so the ability to make a connection, you're looking for that in an interview on some level, whatever that connection might be, and on whatever grounds that might be. And yeah, it's easy to just say, okay, this interview is going nowhere. When somebody doesn't have an interest in doing something.
Yeah, I got another top tip is change your name as well. I once hired a guy called John Connor. I figure if we can fire off a couple of Terminators, it can work at our place. So just basically on the name there, they were hired instantly. I'm joking there, but again, as James says, you got to get a bit of personality out in there. I want to work with people who know, and I know it sounds, I can have to laugh with. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a hard taskmaster. We all just want to get the work done and go home and do better things with our families and our spare time. But I think the bit is there. We're there to do a job. Let's get it done in the 37 hours we've got. Because if you can't do 37 hours or 40 hours, we're either understaffed, under-resourced, and do that. But you've got to do it with a bit of a smile. I want people to turn into work, and that's the main thing. People don't work for money. That's a fallacy. It's a joke. People work for job security. People work for a mission and a vision in the organization, and people work for people. If they don't like that environment, they will leave. Very rarely people leave about money, and if they can't resolve the pain right, that is the bit where you're in the wrong role. So you need to get that balance and make sure you know why you're in that job.
And people often look for a sense of empowerment, and people, whenever I've talked to people and hired people who come from other organizations, there was in those organizations, they didn't get a sense that the efforts they had were adding up to anything, or they didn't feel empowered to make decisions and then follow through with them. Like, okay, here, let's go do something. And then you find out that kind of like opening a watch and finding, no moving parts in it. It's like, oh, you say, James, that we can go do something, but then I wasn't really able to do it. And people, when they're looking around for an organization to join, they're looking for, if not a sense of belonging, but a sense of accomplishing something. And once those things are really, that's the higher element of Maslow's hierarchy, as it were, right? And much more impactful. And then that's why people will leave a company if they don't have that. And that's why people will come over to an organization that does have that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. I think this is going to provide a lot of insight for people that are wanting to transition into new careers and that kind of thing. I've definitely learned a lot so far. I'm very keen to learn some more. So one big question that used to come up quite frequently when we were asking our students what kinds of questions they would like to ask you guys, was what is the most important tool that someone has or someone could use or could easily access or gain access to in order to make that move and make that transition into cybersecurity? Are there any tools? Is there anything that they can use to make that transition easier or to make it happen faster? Kind of where do they start and what can they use and how can they use it?
You need an industry driven, as far as a tool. So you're not talking about, a technical tool, like something to learn or whatever. You're talking, you need kind of an industry driven kind of program that, mainlines into what's really important. So I would argue that a certification can help, or some sort of program that really tells you, here's what's important, here's what's not. And it's something that's been vetted, not just by a few smart people, but by thousands of working professionals, things like that. To me, that enables you to move forward with confidence, not to waste your time and things like that. That would be that a mentor, like I mentioned before.
Wonderful. And Gary?
Ooh, honestly, the most important tool someone has is the CV, I feel, and you've got to cyber it up to what you do, and it's using the right terminology. Again, I'd be talking about the CIS controls, NIST cybersecurity framework, MITRE ATT&CK framework, Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain, all the frameworks that make sense, rather than specific tools there. The best tool I've seen to get people into cybersecurity is self-promotion and LinkedIn. The moment you take a course, the moment you pass a course, the moment you take a certification, the moment you learn a new skill, get it put out there on LinkedIn and get it shared amongst friends, colleagues, use the @ sign, thank people, like everything, and comment, because that's how you grow. All the recruiters are on there, and they will find you if you're active. It's about picking the right set of courses and getting a mix of cross skills, to get that career change and be willing to move on. Don't hold any loyalty, and a 6 month role, it's sometimes as good as a 6-year role. Bounce around. So that will be having a good degree of common sense and knowing your worth.
Yeah.
A lot of tools there.
Yeah, the biggest tool is figuring out is confidence. And I realize that's more of you can say, well, it's more of an attitude change or something, but actually the ability, the confidence to be able to assemble the skills that you have, and if you arrange them into a CV, that's fine. But I think the main thing is you need to move forward the ability to move forward in a confident way. Once you have that, then you can keep your feet no matter what, whether it be in an interview or as you're learning a concept, or as you're figuring out, what particular skill you need to hone.
Wonderful. So I actually have some questions based off of those responses, funnily enough. So first, James, you touched a little bit on certifications, getting qualified, that kind of thing, or at least becoming familiar with industry recognized and industry standards in terms of frameworks and that kind of thing. Would you say that having a degree in something that's IT or technical or something like that is a bit more marketable than having a certification? And I know that's very difficult without kind of discrediting one or the other, but which one would you say is the best route to go down? Let's say we've got graduates who are looking to go down the route of technology and they're not entirely sure which route they'd like to go down just yet. Would you advise that they do certifications, or would you advise that they do a degree?
You can work on a degree eventually, but you don't need a degree to get into IT in general. And I find, for example, because like I said, ended up with 3 degrees, right? They weren't even in IT, right? But what got me, I remember it was a $25,000 pay raises when I got a CompTIA cert and a Microsoft cert, right, in the same year. That's what got me through the door, and then I got a pay raise like that. And that's something that didn't happen to somebody else. It happened to me. So, and I've seen that time and time again. So, Are there some organizations that will look for that degree and absolutely has to happen? Well, of course, right? But what we're finding more and more is that people are realizing that it's all about evidence of skill. And that's the key here. What is the evidence of skill? To some people, I guess a 4-year degree is the only thing that will give them that evidence of skill. To other people, it can be indirect or a direct experience. And think about it that way. What is direct experience? What is indirect experience? And then what is the indicator of experience? Instead of indicator of compromise or indicator of attack, what's the indicator of experience for that organization? And I would say you'd probably want to work for an organization that has a more progressive understanding of what those indicators of experience are. Otherwise, you'll end up working for an organization that doesn't have what it takes to really recognize skill and effort and business opportunity. If they're kind of wired in some old ways of thinking, I think maybe it might be time to move on to an organization that rewards, true skill.
And Gary, what's your take on that, on degree versus certification?
Okay. Yeah, as an ex-teacher, I did my teaching degree for 1 year and decided against it. Not for me. But as a parent also, and then the stuff of witnessing the apprenticeship program is that I would argue the benefits of the degree, of an IT degree, knowing that you probably end up costing you about £8,000 to do a degree if you went full time. That's £9,500 a year. If you're away from home, it's probably going to cost you a minimum 12,000. So let's just say 20k times 4, 80k. So against the value of what certification can give you. So you can take a hell of a lot of certifications for 80k, and you probably get a lot more benefit and a lot more understanding rather than being sat around in a student bar of an evening. Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's degrees over what it teaches you to write reports. That's what a degree teaches you to do. And report writing is a skill. Don't get me wrong. You need that to write reports. But I would say it's that certainly some of the programs where I run alongside with CompTIA. Comments have been, well, you basically taught year one of my degree within a day. Not here. That's where you're at here. And I'm not dissing degrees, obviously. I've got a couple of degrees. Do a rate them. I did the dissertations in 3 days. Just to bash them out there because I'm fundamentally lazy. But like James said there, the most benefit I've got from my experience, it is that the A+ set me off on my path. Love the course. It's still my favorite course. It's one of my favorite courses to teach. The Network Plus is a definite must. I'm not just pimping CompTIA here. This is just my independent viewpoint as being somebody who mentors a lot of people, as somebody who trains a lot of people, as somebody who develops people inside the industry around the world to a degree. Network Plus is a fundamental basis that you have to understand the OSI model. Don't understand that, really shouldn't be in cyber. Security Plus is pound for pound the best certification around. Size is great, good one. Pentest Plus, when everyone goes, I'm going to read Pentest, I'm going to hack everybody with GCHQ. Chances are, there's just different levels of Pentesters. Pentest Plus is a great cert, and it's, again, pound for pound, best value out there. Obviously, those are great underpinning certifications that go for higher level certs like ISARGA, CISM, CISA, and ISC squared CISP. And again, people pass CISP and, puts £10,000 in your salary instantly. You've got to makes you right knowledge. You can get a degree anytime. I've got loads of people now at the moment doing masters, and one of the guys has just said, I'm doing a degree. I'm stressed over it. It's exam time. I don't spend time with the kids. I wish I'd have done CISP. I'd have got more from doing Security Plus.
There's, it's almost like there's not enough time in the world. It's like things are moving so quickly. You could argue a degree can be helpful in management or something, but get the certifications, get in there, get into the mix, as it were, right? And then, let them pay for a degree if that's what is important later on. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of folks get into an organization through certifications and eventually get a degree because the organization said, well, we want to position you, for something later on in management, say, for example. So I've seen that as well.
I'd spend my £80,000 elsewhere, like on my gas bill. So, So
there's a lot of that.
there's a lot of that. But yeah, honestly, I would, in the UK, I don't think we've quite got it right on GCSE and prior to GCSE. I think we focus too much on coding, to be honest, and we don't focus on the basics of cybersecurity. All kids now, I think it's 70% of kids over the age of 9 have got a mobile phone. Which kids all know all about the main things is physical security, keep it in my pocket, don't get it out. I'm going to get beat up and taken away from me. Make sure it's got pass lock, make sure it's got biometrics, so they know about identity access management there. Make sure it's patched, make sure we get the right apps on there. Let's not try to sideload, we do code reviews. So they're knowing about cyber at an early age. Coding is just, we just got it quite wrong in the UK on the coding side. We spent too heavily in coding rather than common sense. And that is why we, as a nation, are getting absolutely annihilated on the cybersecurity dimension, because the focus is wrong. Again, with the degree path, I think that's wrong. I'd argue, why would you want to leave with £8,000 debt when an apprenticeship you walk away free, or with the certification you get back from your book? There's a mix there for sure, but I think it probably needs a wider discussion of that.
There are a lot of traditional like thinking that's gone on that's really caused a lot of problems. You mentioned, for example, you said that in some ways the UK doesn't get it right in terms of emphasis on coding or degrees. Trust me, over the last 6 months, I've been in from India to Singapore to Thailand to the UK, United States, down into Central America, been around the world, and everybody gets that problem, gets that thing wrong, right? And there's nothing wrong with coding. I love coding. I taught him at a company for 10 years on that, but it really has to do with, moving the needle in terms of securing a country or securing an organization. And what has not moved the needle in 30 years or more is an emphasis on, you got to be a coder, computer science, academic kind of approach. That hasn't moved the needle at all. In fact, it's been regressive. So we need to be more progressive in it. And there are a lot of different I call it misconceptions out there. You have to be a coding genius first, or you have to be a maths genius first. You have to get a 4-year degree. All of those things, you need to set those things aside and look afresh at. And I think that's one of the things that you can do, that students can do, and think about, okay, how can I look at this in a fresh way, in a new way?
Yeah.
Can I just answer a question that just came in the chat there? It's about, if a job description is looking for a degree and wants a particular qualification, my advice would be just go for it. It would just put in an application, because if you get your application a lot clear and a lot concise about what skills you got, what you can provide, you'll probably be better than somebody with an IT degree. And if an organization is just looking for a requirement of a single certification or a single IT degree, they're looking for the wrong person. You need to just go and sell you there, and just definitely go for that. The degrees mean nothing. We have basically taken quite a way for degree for working now for us, because anyone can have a degree. Anyone can have an IT degree, but IT degrees, when I've been on them, are usually pretty poor assessed. Again, you've got to get the right mix in there of what you're teaching and relevant to. I think you need a degree, or degrees out should be pimped where you get out some certification out of it to give best value for an employer. Surely the end point of getting a degree is to get a job at the end of it.
Mm. It's a question of value, isn't it? Where can you demonstrate the value, and does an organization, is it capable even recognizing, the value that you bring? And if it's not, find an organization. If the organization can't figure it out, if you figure that out, it's time to go move on and sell yourself elsewhere.
Definitely. Wonderful. And then I just want to circle back to, Gary, your response earlier when we asked about the tools. So you mentioned that you touched on kind of networking, a LinkedIn, that sort of thing. So I just wanted to find out if you could go a little bit more into that. So how important is networking if you're looking to move into cybersecurity, or if you're looking to move into technology? Is it important to have a good social media presence? Does it tie into anything like background security checks? How important is someone's digital footprint is what I am basically trying to get at when it comes to trying to secure a position in cybersecurity and in technology.
I think it's just common sense there. It's about what information you release and allowed to be released. And that goes down to open source intelligence then. I'll make sure your digital footprint's right. We've all seen actors. I mean, Gary Lineker is one of the most just basically tweeted about the current migrant crisis, and he's in trouble with the BBC because the Daily Mail don't like his response. So there's a topical political. James won't be aware of that. But it's like you've got to know what is out there, and if you're going through the relevant clearance, for DV developed vetting, which is the higher end in the UK, they will look at your social media presence. In fact, they'll probably look at you negatively if you don't have a social media presence, because they'll probably you've got something to hide. So, and within the new NSB national security vetting, they do look deeply at social media now. So it depends what you're going for. I would say keep it. Be very careful what you put on social media and what political views you've got on there. They will always come back to bite you, as we've seen in anything else. Twitter is a bit of an angry one, obviously. We won't have to go Elon Musk there. That's more of a rant. I rant about the price of cucumbers on Facebook. I don't use. I browse it now. I haven't used it quite some years. I left that for a bit. That's just ads. And be careful what putting there. Nights out are always very ludicrous because you don't want stuff like that. You've got a night out, you're not in a great state. But LinkedIn is really, you've got to keep it professional. Promote you, join the right groups for success. That's the important thing. And sign up to as many recruiters as you've got and make sure your CV is ready to go. That's how you're getting a job. You get a job through LinkedIn, generally.
Yeah.
It's all about a professional dialogue. If you focus on a professional dialogue, that's the important thing. That way you're not wasting your time. You're not wasting other people's time. You won't get into strange discussions that can end up biting you later on. If you engage in a meaningful dialogue with the right crowd, whatever crowd that is, employers, people who are really about something important and useful, then you probably won't run into any of those strange situations.
100%. Wonderful. And then we also have a couple of questions on trends and technologies that we're going to be getting into. But before we move away from these career-oriented questions, we have another question on kind of how do I know or how can I decide whether I should be going the cybersecurity analyst route or more down the penetration tester or the pen test pathway? How do you know whether you should be going either one of those routes? How would you decide which one is the best for you to move into? How would you guys go about addressing that situation for someone who's a bit of a hesitant career changer?
Take a look at kind of what the options are. There's so many options out there. For example, you can go the cybersecurity analyst route. You can go the pen tester route. There's things, for example, with governance. I was just talking recently to a person who was a school teacher until about 18 months ago. It was about a year ago. She's now a cybersecurity compliance manager, for example. So one of the first things to do is go ahead and take a look at what those job descriptions kind of look like in various areas. And don't try to pigeonhole yourself too quickly. A lot of folks think when they first get into security, these years ago or even now, with cybersecurity means forensics, for example. They think all jobs are in forensics or all jobs are in one area. We've just mentioned 3, or I guess with forensics, 4 different areas. There are even more of those. And the first thing is you could look at job requests, but you could look at, authoritative job descriptions and see if that speaks to you. Do you like to get in to something and effectively throw rocks at systems and servers? If that's something, and to actually go in and see how to offensively look at something and get in, then I guess that means pen testing would be useful for you. If you're somebody who likes to gather evidence, whether that evidence be log files or packet captures or spreadsheets, things, and take a look at what pivots look like. That could be security analyst just for you. You like working with teams and doing analysis of business implementations, and then, this looks perfectly legit, but you're exposing the organization to certain risks. Then something like a compliance manager or something like an auditor, a security auditor would be a job for you. So find some sort of authoritative source.
Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, the bit, going back to the wide spectrum of roles in cyber, it's not just related to tech. Governance, risk, compliance, audit, assurance are great ways to go. The way I see, CYSA is that, great for SOC analysis, fantastic overview of what you're looking for. It covers a lot of the frameworks, MITRE, type framework, Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain, NIST, the F61R2 are the ones that I want to hear interview. I want to hear you understand the frameworks, you understand what they mean, CS controls, how to protect the network, do you know the structure, etc. there. Again, you've got to be aware of a lot of the SOC technologies and SIEM technologies out there. Splunk, Logarithm are probably fastly being overtaken by Azure Sentinel now. So again, with CYSA, you probably got to look around for the freebies out there when Microsoft have Cloud Ignite, and I look at SC200 when they do that with free. So it's a good certification, gives you knowledge of Sentinel that you can talk about in an interview. Pentest Plus, again, great cert. Get way better than most of the compile certs out there. But certainly on value based on technology. Gets you looking at Metasploit, Kali Linux. I'd probably buy myself a Wi-Fi Pineapple for a bit of fun if you can get one. They're not in stock at the moment. But Aircrack NG, Wireshark, looking at PCAPs. Things like that. To know, you've got to know, I think, both sides of the coin. James and I did a talk a couple of years ago now before lockdown about you have to know how to defend.
See the point.
How to offend. It's not offend, but we can offend people if you like. But yeah, it is a blue team, red team. How they work together. They're coming more collaborative now, a purple team. So you've got to understand a bit of both. I mean, the example is for me. It's like, I'm a goalkeeper. I used to be a striker. I know to put the ball in the back of the net. I know to put the ball from going in the net. You have to be good at one or the other, and that's what it is. But the underpinning bit back there, I feel, is Sec Plus. So if you've got the line of Sec Plus, clear line of sight between Sec Plus to understand everything, and then you've got the line of sight underneath there, which is Network Plus. That is the bit there to understand infrastructure, segregation, segmentation, why it's done with a bit of risk, and then how to defend it and how it's going to be attacked. And you can articulate that in an interview. Game on, you're hired. Forget about degree. Those four certs, you'll learn a lot more than degree. So ignore that stuff, about employers say, got them in the bag, go for it, and make sure that stuff you do learn in those certifications is brought out in the CV of the application, because that's what they want to hit. ISO 27001, classic. So yeah.
It comes down to pathways. There are a lot of pathways you could check out. For example, at CompTIA, just type in CompTIA infrastructure or CompTIA cybersecurity pathways, and you can kind of take a look at what tickles your fancy, what really is interesting to you. And that way you can start really zoning in and really focusing on the specific skills that interest you for a specific job.
Yeah, I believe I actually saw on the CompTIA website that there's a career pathway quiz that you can take. So that was very interesting. I think I got the network career pathway. I was quite impressed with myself. Yeah.
I think, it's the networking side is so much fun because one of the things that I found, I was talking to a person who runs a managed service provider in the UK, another one who runs a managed service provider in Belgium. They said basically it's all about the applications. And I said, well, what does that mean? Let's unpack that. And they said, the attackers tend to be where the money is. The money tends to be in the applications. And so the user IDs and things like that. So what are some ways in which you can learn how to monitor the pivot points, the ways in which attackers follow some form of attack model or some sort of attack sequence of events? And how can you identify what those indicators are? And how can you sniff them out and things like that? Or how can you learn to conduct them yourself? There's one way to do it. Or what way can you help an organization focus on the crown jewels or the areas that are really important? That way the organization is not boiling the ocean with all sorts of different controls or whatever, but they're actually focusing on ways in which attackers can enter into the organization.
Very. Okay, fantastic. And it's quite interesting that you brought up kind of the number one place or manner or area basically that attackers would target, because my next question, as we're moving into discussing more trends and technologies, is just what would you say is the number one cyber-related threat that we're facing today?
Tough way to questions.
Yeah, people.
Social engineering. Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Culture. It's the insider threat. It's misconfiguration, not dealing with the risk. There's places out there that still using Windows 3.11. For sure. There's still people using VAX machines, and we're not talking about vacuum cleaner there. There's loads of insecure, very old kit out there, and that's down to people, business risk, knowing stuff there. Culture, people still click on phishing links. Why do people still do that? It's about that training, education, awareness. I know there's a question probably we're going to go later on about where do you see cybersecurity in 10 years' time? The job's about people, and it goes back there to communication. So it's about understanding people and getting them to change habits.
There's people used to talk about hardware, and then they talked about software. I always talk about the wetware, right? People, right? That's really the key element, because it really does come down to things such as misconfigurations. Comes down to people talking about supply chain problems. That really comes back down to people as well. So yeah, those are kind of the root causes that can cause problems with ransomware or with advanced persistent threats or with DDoS attacks. Or it comes down, I think, to finding the right way to manage people and what they're doing and what they're creating.
Okay. Fantastic, thank you. And I know we're running out of time, but this is a question I personally am really, really curious about. And with this increase in the use of artificial intelligence or AI, like ChatGPT, that's absolutely taken social media and everything else by storm, when do you think that the need for trained professionals will be taken over by that AI?
Machine learning is just going to be another coworker, and it already is. So we've been using machine learning and AI. You call it what you want. I used to talk about in terms of machine learning. We've been using it for years. It's been in our products for years. So as far as taking over things, AI, machine learning is really good at brute force kinds of things. In other words, taking something that's repetitive and then automating it and learning a few things like that. It still doesn't have that interpretive element that humans have. And most people, ChatGPT, if you're worried about ChatGPT taking your job, WebScript will probably replace your job much easier than that. So I would say that artificial intelligence is something that is going to be one of the new coworkers that you're working with. A great new diverse way of looking at it, getting good information any way you can get it. And for example, I was talking recently with the organization Red Hat, and they have a project called Project Wisdom where they take Ansible playbooks and they've applied a machine learning to it, and they have an artificial intelligence element there. That's a serious implementation of artificial intelligence. Is it replacing workers? No, it's actually making workers much more efficient so they can spend time on non-repetitive tasks and spend time where the hackers are, for example, and be much more focused.
Okay. Wonderful. And Gary, what are your thoughts?
I think AI, whatever the press like to report on, and where ChatGPT is great for doing my son's homework. Trust me, it does. as James says, AI has been around, machine learning, for a long time, and a lot of technology. Microsoft use it quite heavily on Sentinel. Will it replace our jobs? Well, I mean, jobs change and jobs evolve. And that's the true facts of life here. And the bit is that, you know, you don't need artificial intelligence. You just need intelligence in yourself to know when to adapt for you. And the bit is what will go on, you know, a computer at this moment in time, and probably where we are within our working lifetimes, will not be able to translate the actual risk to the organization. That will rely on a human to do that one. And there'll always be human intervention there going on. AI will not stop a user clicking on an email link or opening the door for a tailgate and a piggyback to come into the organization. Won't do that. So it's about the people side. So I wouldn't be too concerned about AI at the moment, unless obviously they turn into Austrian-speaking cyborgs. That's what
it's interesting to see how attackers are using AI, because what they're doing is they're finding the people, that 3% or 6% of people that just won't learn and keep clicking on things. They don't have humans exploit those people. They have automated things and artificial intelligence things are attacking people that way. I think the main thing to look at when it comes to AI is it's a fancy form of automation that is capable of learning. And when it comes to ChatGPT, it's the new Wikipedia of learning right now, right? Yeah. Any good professor, any good teacher is going to go, congratulations, you asked, ChatGPT. We've got to go deeper, and I call that the last mile. You need to be a last mile worker where you can basically go, look, I see where ChatGPT or whatever has gotten me, or something serious, a serious AI implementation has taken me. And then you need the ability to move that conversation forward from there. That's where your value is going to be.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. So what I've learned from that is I need to be scared of web script, not, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
I think you need to be scared of superficial thinking.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. And then I wanted to just run this question by you. So naturally, a lot of people, this is another trend that's popping up a lot, is just how in demand qualified cybersecurity specialists or individuals that are just qualified in this field are in this massive demand. So why do you think that cybersecurity has taken such an upward trend in terms of the opportunities that are available to us in today's market?
We use technology more than ever before, and we're so reliant on it. And the way in which technology gets implemented is sometimes a little scary, a little haphazard. And so there's a lot of cleanup that needs to be done. We all want things to be done proactively and security to be thought of first, but that tends not to be the case. That's one.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, in cybersecurity, you kind of get professionals on the left, right, center, understand the issue and the problem. And there's a big shortfall, and pay is high for those people with skill, and get a cross skill set. So it's a combination of a lot of information technology, Internet of Things, operational technology skills, cloud, CSOC penetration test, and for the amount of skills you've got, you can get demand in there. There is a historic problem that rages in the UK and around the world that hasn't been addressed for some time. And it's easy to accept the risk and forget the risk than it is to deal with it. And now it's coming back to bite us because we haven't dealt with the risk. And that is seen right the way across the UK, certainly in the political arena and on and with the cyber arena. You can see that a lot of things are now biting the back. So, I mean, cybersecurity is great. Advice would be there. If you're in a job, move around, gain experience. If you're a new starter in the role, don't be afraid of contracting. Go for contracting. It should be, there's no loyalty from an employer as there is loyalty from an employee. If the money's there, the career path is right, you go learn stuff, move from PAYE, go contracting, and you are your best business. That is one thing I cannot sell enough. You are your business. You have to sell you. And the moment you go, everyone's feared of contracting. The moment you go contracting, there's so much contracts out there. You've got to fight to keep them away from the door if you are good. Really.
Why not so?
consultative thinking is so important in regards to this, because it allows you not only to become, say, a contractor, but to really go in and really identify a problem and find a way to solve it.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And I think what we'll use is our closing question for today. Firstly, thank you guys so much. But what will cybersecurity look like in 10 years from now, do you guys think?
At least
Thank you today.
What was that, man?
Same as it is today. It'll still be down to people. It'll still be down to people and culture. IoT is going to come big. As we get more devices onto the net. That's why I'm saying look at industrial control systems, because that's never going to go. And the underpinning network and security that goes with that. But the still problem is people and culture. People are still going to buy rubbish internet connected devices from Asia, connect them into the household. They'll be buying it in. They'll end up being a zombie horde and end up attacking you from the inside. It's about what you go and buy, and it's about, we have to. So all the basics are always going to be there. Networking has not moved on in 100 years. They've just rebranded it every time, from trunk calls to VLANs to network security groups. They're all the same. They're just rebranded. And it's knowing exactly as James said at the start, if you know the basics, you're good. And people, communication.
I think one of the things that you're going to see is a lot more the combination of what we call IT and operational technology. Operational technology is stuff that basically runs a conveyor belt or a power generating turbine or something like that. You're going to see a lot of the combination there. I think that you'll see as the cities get smarter and technology is just even more pervasive than now, far more pervasive. You'll also see an increased interest in privacy, what that means, and the different permutations of what privacy means. Some people oppose that in a sense or separate it from security, but you'll see more what it means to get your ducks in a row in terms of security to enable privacy and all the different elements that entails. So as we combine and make our physical devices smarter, ever smarter, privacy will become a major issue as well.
And I'm hoping in 10 years' time, I won't have to worry about how to be retired. Right. Which will have an internet connection. Hopefully, we'll get we'll see. Well, yeah, it's up to the people in this call to take a grip of this and get hold of it, to start the mess that a lot of people haven't sorted out for a long time. It's a big challenge, and you've got to step up to this challenge there. There's stuff out there, you're going to be prepared, but you're going to shock you. You're still going to see a lot of Windows Server NT4, 2000, 2003, and that'll be kicking around for another 10, 15
forever. Yeah.
That'll be applications that they can't get rid of because they're so reliant on them. And you've got to be prepared that you've got to know some stuff that may well be older than you.
Wow. Okay. That is wonderful. Thank you guys so much. I think everyone's got a lot to think about. I know I certainly do. So it was lovely chatting to you guys. Thank you for taking the time to respond to the questions that we had lined up. And yeah, it was really informative. Thank you guys so much.
Anytime, man. Take care. All the best.
Thank you. You guys too. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
See if I can put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. Thanks, man. Thanks for the opportunity, man. It was fun.
Thank you so much. It was lovely. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
See you, man. Bye. See you.
Bye.
See you, Gary.